Welcome back to another day of 31 Days of Horror. I'm your host, Stephen Bloodworth, filmmaker and indie film critic. Thank you so much for coming by. Since the advent of film, horror films have evolved into several different subgenres, and directors will do anything to try to up the ante and make their films scarier and more effective. In the United States at the time, horror films were getting much more violent with Saw and Hostel. But overseas in Asia, gore seemed to be nothing new to a lot of Asian directors. Besides explicit gore, a lot of horror fans were gravitating towards the found footage subgenre. The subgenre was previously established with films like The Last Broadcast, going to the Blair Witch Project, and evolving into the mecca known as Paranormal Activity. But in South Korea, director Kim Jin-won decided to combine both gratuitous gore and found footage with his film, The Butcher. The Butcher is basically a pseudo-snuff film all taking place inside of an abandoned slaughterhouse. The film opens up with one of the antagonists, known as Bong Sik, recording himself as he takes a piss, and then eventually goes into another room of the slaughterhouse where our four victims are kept hostage. Inside, we could see our four victims lying tied down on the ground with these bizarre headpieces attached to their heads, and on top is a video camera. At first, we only see our two antagonists, Bong Sik, who is Morley the apprentice, as well as another guy who seems to be taking care of the business side of these criminals. It's revealed through the conversation between Bong Sik and the other man in the leather jacket that they're responsible for directing, producing, and distributing snuff films. Eventually, the guy in the leather jacket leaves, and we go and meet with the director, who is called Director Kim. Bong Sik then divides the group up into twos. He takes one group of two into another room and leaves our main two, who we see throughout the rest of the film. And this happens off camera, but we hear the sound of a chainsaw as well as a lot of screaming. Eventually, Director Kim and Bong Sik take the other two into another room where they prepare to torture and execute them on film. The one man pleads for his life, hoping that at least the people will let his wife go. Director Kim strikes up a deal with the victim, saying that if he can take 5 minutes of pain, then he will let both him and his wife go. And that's when we're introduced to the South Korean Leatherface of the group, who is known as the Pig. And the Pig is essentially this big guy in a pig mask who just grunts and screams and says nothing else. What exactly entails in these 5 minutes of torture? Well, the Pig beats this guy across the head with a sledgehammer, followed by the Pig anally raping the man, and to cap it all off, the Pig then finishes by sawing the man's fingers off with a chainsaw. I'm gonna leave it at that because there is much more to this film. When it comes to a lot of found footage and even pseudo-snuff films, some of them seem to drag on or just seem pretty senseless. With The Butcher, there is not one moment where you feel bored or you're waiting for the film to finally end. Each character, even the victims, are sick in their own ways. It's meant to be a pseudo-snuff film, and the gore is usually supposed to be the highlight of the film, and it goes without saying the gore is pretty damn good in The Butcher. The film is easy to find, so if you come across a copy on DVD or you find it online somewhere, I highly suggest checking it out. Well, now we have dove into the nitty-gritty of horror and the nitty-gritty of 31 Days of Horror, and trust me, it's only gonna get more gruesome.